up, everyone? Well, here, not there. Here, not there. Happy Friday night. Happy Friday night. We are hanging out talking about my unrelenting gear acquisition syndrome known as gas. Hope everyone's having a fantastic evening. I am pulling up the stream now on my phone because last time StreamYard did me dirty and was like, hey, I'm not going to show your chat anywhere. So I am going to pull the chat up just in case. If you're joining the stream and want to talk about BF, S1R Mark II, FP, whatever it may be, come join the chat. Look at that, StreamYard. You did amazing. Gas is a crazy acronym. It really is. Okay, see, I'm not crazy, right? Like, yes, I'm not crazy. Your comment's very true. Gas is a crazy acronym for sure. But last time I streamed, like none of the chat was coming through. It was insane. And so now I can see the chat and actually highlight you guys. So chat away. Let's talk. All right. So I bought another BF. I have a problem. I bought okay. So backstory on why I bought another BF. I bought another BF, and let me actually see. Why did I buy another Sigma BF? Okay, cool. I set up the stream in StreamYard and put a working title in, and I was like, I wouldn't even watch that. So let's go with something different. But I bought another BF. When I had my original BF, when I was testing the BF, I really enjoyed it and was like, okay, cool. I'm definitely buying this camera, right? So that's where I got the silver BF from. And at the time, I was like, the silver is killer. It stands out. It's great at networking events because people are like, hey, what camera is that? And you're like, let me tell you. But like, I really enjoy using this camera. I enjoy using it for shockingly video more than I do photo sometimes. Like I love it as a video centric camera, even though it's not marketed as that. You get 10-bit. It is still, I think it's 10-bit 420, but still great camera. So I enjoyed it so much. I, at the time, had a second FP because of just where I am with my cameras. I wasn't using the FP as much. Right now I have the S1R Mark II as my A cam. That's what I'm using as my camera here, which I'm currently trying to figure out why my real-time LUT looks like I'm back in 2017 with like the raised shadow look all over the place. Is the audio cutting in and out? I don't have my headphones. Let me see. Check 1, 2. It's not. I don't think it's cutting in and out for me. Is anyone else experiencing audio issues? Actually, you know what? I did notice. Let me see. Let me close the stream. For some reason, last time, and let me know if this gets better. Last time when I was streaming, I pulled up the stream on YouTube to see the chat. It actually, for some reason, like made the audio real weird. And I don't know, maybe it was circumstantial. I'm not entirely sure. Let me close out a couple windows here. Let me know if you guys are having audio issues or if you're hearing any audio issues. Let me close out my windows and all of that. So yeah, let me know. What's the biggest thing you think about when buying a camera for you personally? Audio sounds clean, by the way. Oh, thank you. Maybe just me. It might be, but again, if it is, let me know. I'm going to come back to this question because I definitely want to give a little bit of backstory. So, anyways, I had 2 FPs. I wasn't using the FP as much, so I actually sold my second FP and bought another BF, which is the black version. So you guys drop a chat. Let me put both in frame for a second. Are we a fan of silver or black? silver or black. So, which do we like better, silver or black? Okay, so let me get to this question. What's the biggest thing that you think about when buying a camera for you personally? It depends on if I'm buying it for my business or if I'm buying it personally. If it's business, does it just doesn't meet my general criteria of what I need to use on set. I actually just bought the S1R Mark II. I was testing it from Lumix and ended up buying my own personal copy because it checked all the check boxes that I needed for my business. We do a lot of brand advertisements. We do docu-style type talking heads. And we're not doing any sports or a lot of high frame rates or anything like that. And so it really did check all the boxes that I wanted. Now, the reason, and I have a video of why I chose the S1R Mark II as my A cam. And that is simply because while it did check a lot of those boxes, it had an image that I was really happy with. Like, it's not like a lot of times you have to ask yourself, like, am I going to go with the camera that checks all the boxes and has a decent image? There are cameras out there that have a better image, but maybe don't check the rest of the check boxes. Like, perfect example is the FP. For a long time, I used that camera solely on the fact that it had an amazing image. Now, the amazing image, you can't overlook the fact that, like, on set, the FP can sometimes be very frustrating. And so this is where you kind of have to go in, like, what matters the most, what is, more efficient, what makes your workflow more efficient. I have all autofocus lenses now. I did have cinema lenses for the longest time because the FP didn't have autofocus or great autofocus. And so I didn't want to rely on it. Well, now with the S1R Mark II, I have autofocus. And so this Sunday, I'm doing a brand, talking head, or brand story talking head. And I'm able to use like an autofocus 50 millimeter f1.2 and put that thing at 1.2 and, be able to get that kind of beauty shot that I may want from this specific client while, obtaining autofocus. So it really comes down to, like, especially when you're kind of torn between like two that are very like similar, is, for me, image will always win over specs. Case in point, S1II versus S1R Mark II. Arguably, the S1II has better specs. Yes, the S1R Mark II has 8K and things like that, but the S1II, for all intents and purposes, has better specs. But to me, I feel something when I shoot with the S1R Mark II, and that even plays into that answer too. Is like, does it inspire me to create? And that was actually something that was going to be, it's a kind of interesting tie into what my original stream idea was going to be, is like how to spark creativity as a working professional. Because a lot of times you get that burnout. You don't want to like keep creating content. You don't want to keep filming, keep photographing, because you're doing that for your job. But if you have these tools, it's like a painter with a paintbrush, like there are things that just get you excited, and cameras is one of them. So like, I kind of find the medium between like functional, but also inspiring. And that's kind of where I land on what I want to buy. And that's where like the BF, and I'll bring up cameraman Mark's comment here. Silver all the way. Silver, you can't argue with the silver. No, I do have a dilemma, and I want to ask you guys what you think. We'll get to that in just a second. Look at the halation, because I'm using a Pro Mist right now. Like, it looks so nice. But I'll be honest, I do love the black. Like, I do. It's classic. And I've been rocking this for the last couple days. And I really do like it, because it's kind of like, this camera is a little bit intended to be a designer camera. And so I feel like it is now at this point of like, I leave to go to work. I choose what cologne I want to wear for the day, and I choose what color camera I want to take out. Do I go with the black version, or go with the silver version? So it's kind of that accessory type deal. But Yeah, it's honestly, but going back to like inspiring, like this camera for as many check boxes that it doesn't check, like it inspires me to create. Even holding it so awkwardly, like I have a grip and I don't use it because I love the way that this feels. I don't know why. Now I do like it with this little lens. This is the 18 to 40 from Lumix because the weight distribution is really nice. The same thing kind of with the silver version where I have this Sigma 45 on there. Small lens, so I can grip it how it was designed. But anytime I go with a lens that's remotely big or bigger, I have to put a grip on it because otherwise it's just gonna not feel comfortable. But it inspires me. It makes me want to shoot more. I bring it with me as my everyday carry, and it allows me to give that little spark of creativity. And you kind of need that sometimes when you're doing this every day. So, what makes the Sigma FP inspiring for you? Also, love the way you craft your look for your videos and style. Thank you. What makes the Sigma FP? Oh man. And I kind of said this when with my Lumix S1R Mark II video, where I talked about the reason why I chose this camera is the first camera since the Sigma FP that I go to film with it, and the image that comes from this camera makes me feel something. And that is what the FP always did for me. Like it gave me that just it was just a rich, beautiful image, and I loved the challenge at the time that I had with the Sigma FP of, you have Cinema DNG, and depending on how you shoot with it, you may be able to see all of your proper exposure in the field, or you may not. I loved what I got out of that camera, and so like honestly, for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, the FP was borderline my only camera. I think for a while, right before the S5 2X came out, the FP was like my go-to camera for anything that was not an event, or anything I needed like fast autofocus. If it was a brand interview, brand story, I would take the FP, or I try to. Because again, it's it's just the way that it handles skin tones is beautiful. The way that you can push and pull that image, that Cinema DNG image, is beautiful. And I remember when I started using the FP, and I would hear people talk about how it compares to an RE camera, and I kind of was just like, okay, I've heard this from Sony people. I've heard this from Blackmagic people. I've heard this from, all these different brands. Like, if you try hard enough, you probably can make most things will look really good next to an RE camera. But the more I shot with other brands, the more I was like, no, I'm taking that for granted that you have this camera that can be a B or C camera next to this industry standard kind of classic benchmark of a cinema camera. And that the image is very on par or with that organic texture, that just rich image on par with RE cameras. And that's a testament to that camera. I still have my original FP. I haven't got rid of the FPs. I haven't done much with them, and maybe I need to start making videos with them again. But just as I got into, I became a full-time freelance videographer, photographer back in April. I've been doing it part-time or just hobby before then. But now, because it's my business, I need something that's going to be efficient, and the FP is definitely not efficient. That being said, if anybody's using it for their business, like, dude, you have my hat off to you. I love that camera. I have taken that camera to Lumix events. They know me as the Sigma person. I have Lumix reps being like, you're the person that talks about the FP and like know me as the FP guy. And I have to be like, no, I love Lumix too. Like I love Lumix. Like, but for the fact of like, that's my job now. Like the Lumix is my go-to, and the FP unfortunately hasn't been taken much out of the shelf or out of the drawer lately. So okay, I have a dilemma, right? All right. So title says depending on, I'm looking at StreamYard, it still says my old title. I bought my second BF. So if you're just joining, I purchased a black version of the BF. So I now have both the black and silver version of this camera. No regrets, and I can explain why I did it here in a little bit. But the dilemma I have, I don't want to spend a ton of money, hardly any money, in accomplishing this. Because like the easy answer is just to get another 45, just a black version of the 45. I actually have one on like a long-term loan from Sigma coming in, but that would be the easy answer. Being that this is a designer forward or designer camera, it's meant to look good. If anybody is watching the stream and has the black version of the Sigma BF, so this is my black version. Right now I have the 18-40 from Lumix on there. If anybody is using the black version of the Sigma BF and have a killer pairing of a lens for that camera, that's my dilemma. I want to do this for like as little money as possible, if any. Like if I even have it in my collection and I'm like, oh, why didn't I think about that? Great. But let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments, what are you pairing with your black Sigma BF to give it that consistent look? Because I kind of got spoiled with the silver, because I had this is if you guys haven't seen any of my BF videos before, this is like my OG original I series 45 millimeter. They made like, oh God, I think like either 50 or 500, but either way, it's a very limited lens. It's an unpainted 45 millimeter. It was a gift to me from Sigma when I started working with them as a media person. But I've been spoiled because this is a killer combo. Like it's eye-catching. It looks stellar. Like I've gotten spoiled from it. So if you have a black BF and you, that's the other thing. It needs to be autofocus, preferably autofocus. But if you're pairing anything with a black BF right now, my best take on it is the Lumix 18-40, and it's a nice light lens. 7 Artisans make some really good, cheap, fun lenses. I have the 35-1.4 that has some crazy bokeh. Dude, okay, I have to turn you on to this. I love it. It's not at all the 35-1.4. I think I've tried maybe the Mark 1 of that lens, and it was really good. But the new Infinite cinema lenses are so good. So good. I actually sold, so recently I sold my Sigma Cines. Just wasn't using them. And again, going into business as a freelance videographer, photographer, I was like, I really need gear that's going to benefit the business. My 12 altogether, they were $12,000. I think I got them on a little bit of a discount. So maybe I spent around 10 all in all, not all at once. I don't roll like that. But I, over the time, kind of collected them. I had a 24, 35, 50, and 85. Decent collection. But I was like, I'm not getting as much use out of them as I would like. I'm really only using them for YouTube product shots. I cannot justify keeping them. So I've sold all of them, outfitted myself with some good lenses from Sigma, as well as I think it paid a little bit for the BF. So like right now I'm on the 24 f1.4 autofocus. I have the 50 f1.2. I have the 35 millimeter f1.2. I have the new 24-70 Mark II, all from Sigma. And then also the 7200. So I have, that's my collection right now. But all that saying, rabbit trails, right? Rabbit trail. It's been a long week. All that being said, I don't have a ton of cinema lenses right now, but the Infinite 7 Artisans lenses like have that like nice, like it's a very textured image, and they're smooth, and I love them. I use them for all my product shots now, mixed in with the Module 8. Wesley, what's up, man? Congrats on the second unit. Dude, no, even more impressive. You may understand my struggle on this. You may understand my struggle on this. I have extra batteries now. They shipped my black BF with my batteries. That's how long it took me to get extra batteries. So I now have 4 BF batteries. The BF is almost in every way a better camera than the FP. Functionally, not lacking. Design wins hands down. Yeah, I think the only thing I have a hard time saying that the BF is better. It's because I loved the FP. I genuinely loved that camera. I still love that camera. It's a magical camera. But yes, I do have to agree. In pretty much every way, it outshines the FP, except those DNG files and just what they can give you if you kind of mull them over, if you kind of massage that image and get just that image that you're looking for. Although I am loving Leica L-Log. Like I have ARRILOG C3 on my S1R Mark II. I haven't used it once. I have the code. Full disclaimer, I got the code from Lumix because I am one of their creators. But I have ARRILOG C3 on my S1R Mark II. I haven't used it once because I'm using a Leica, basically like a makeshift Vlog to L-Log conversion in camera. I'm using real-time LUT to convert it to L-Log just because I love that L-Log image. It's so good. It's so good. The new Tilta wooden grip does well with the black BF. I haven't seen that one. I need to check that one out. I don't know if you saw the last stream, and I don't have it near me. It's somewhere around here. XLCS sent me their first cage for the BF. It's very, very functional. He actually does a really good job of trying to kind of like match. It's not going to match the design aesthetic of the BF, but it will give you something a little bit more interesting to look at than just like a normal cage. The only thing I need to further test is if it makes the overheating worse. Because the camera does overheat in 6K in certain scenarios. Usually if it's just the camera and lens, like it's usually fine. I think I've gone like an hour maybe without it overheating, which is crazy. It's again, metal box. Like it's insane. Don't get me wrong. The camera is very hot when it's done recording, but it does not overheat. But it does something, the cage, at least the last couple times I've used it, it will go like almost 40 minutes. And then I can't confirm. I need to turn on, I have my Hollyland that does screen recording. But I need to turn on the screen recording because I've always stepped away. I don't want to sit there for 40 minutes and just twiddle my thumbs while it overheats. And so I saw a comment come through and I lost my train of thought. So it gets to like 30 to 40 minutes. And I think it like takes the battery from a reasonable percentage to like 3, like maybe in the 20s. I need to do this test again. I've done it twice, and each time it seems like it's taking the battery from like 20% to like 3. So it's definitely overheating the battery and draining the power. I'm afraid to try it again because I'm afraid to like cause long-term damage. But I brought it up to XLCS. And I was like, you may want to rethink how to design. And I'm not a cage designer, and I don't claim to be. But put some heat sink. He sent me a couple videos today. I need to see if he addressed it at all. So, I need to check out the Tilta one for sure. Holy cow. I just saw the 7 Artisan Cine lenses. They look awesome. Also looking to get some more Sigma glass. I got the 24-70 Mark II, but want more primes. Any personal favorite primes from Sigma? Hands down. Honestly, you could probably even just do the 50 1.2. Like, I have shot so many projects on that lens. I'm shooting the one this testimonial coming up this weekend on that prime. Like, it is the lens that has earned me money for sure. If I'm not using zooms, I'm using that lens. I use that more than the 24. I use that more than the 35. I use that more than the 85. Like, it is my go-to lens for sure. So yeah, 51.2. It's a little bit, I think it's actually pretty reasonably priced for an f1.2 lens. So I if you're trying to stay like relatively inexpensive, I would even just save up. It's such a good lens. Great focus breathing control. So if you're doing filmmaking, videography, great focus breathing control, great autofocus with their dual HLA autofocus. Like, it's such a good lens. And I actually did reach out to Sigma because they're asking me about reviewing some lenses. And I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, these new cinema lenses that you're putting out, the T1.3s, are they taking optics from the 51.2 and maybe some other lenses? And I did confirm, they said no, that they are unique, but still, like, the 51.2 is just fantastic. All right. Let's see here. Can we connect external monitor to BF? 1000%. 1000%. A lot of cameras now, I mean, like, think of the Blackmagic Pixus. If you're not using SDI, you're going to have to use USB-C to HDMI, and that's basically what you're having to do with the BF. Now, I can confirm through rigorous testing that you can get some media hubs do work with the BF, and you can do monitoring and charging. It does tend to overheat a little bit more with using a media hub and having multiple things going on at the same time, but you can get a media hub and charge and monitor. The only thing I have not figured out at this point is how to monitor and do audio, because you can also do like I'm using the Sennheiser MKE 400. You can do a 3.5 millimeter, connection to USB-C and actually record in with an external microphone. But you can't do it at the same time you do external monitoring, or at least I haven't found a solution for it yet. But that being said, the onboard mics on the BF are actually very good. Very good. Your experience on the BF for filmmaking. I'm using it this Friday or this Sunday. Well, it is Friday. I'm using it this Sunday as a B and maybe C cam for the Lumix S1R Mark II. That's actually, so that was one reason why I bought my second BF, is because they will, I have the S1R Mark II as my A cam. I really don't want to spend the money on a second S1R Mark II. And if I am peeling back the veil, I still have my sample unit that Lumix sent me to test. But when I'm running a business, I want to make sure that, like, if all that falls through, like if one day me and Lumix just like don't like get along, I want to make sure that like I'm good, And so I actually, for the price of what I paid for my Lumix S1R Mark II, I literally bought 2 Sigma BFs. So I'm using it as a B and C cam for my S1R Mark II. And if you go back to my last stream that I did, I have an example of a talking head where I used it as kind of my side angle. It looks like I barely had to do any color correction. The exposure is a little bit off because the way that the monitoring, I feel like it's doing the same thing the FP was doing. The image, I tend to expose a lot, and I know this is terrible. I'm going to get probably in trouble for this, but I tend to expose just by what I see, right? I don't rely on tools as much as I should. But I found the BF, even though the highlights aren't clipping, it looks like they're clipping on the LCD. And so I'll maybe turn down the exposure. And so the exposure might be a little bit off. But as far as like the image, like you couldn't, I can't tell that it's not an S1R Mark II. Makey 85 1.8. Oh, that's a good call. Or a Lumix 85 1.8. Which one to choose? Oh, you're talking about like between the two. That is tough. I probably would spend a little bit extra to do the Lumix. I haven't personally, and that's even saying like I haven't really personally shot with the 85 from Lumix, but I've shot with the 50 and I've shot with the 100. Their primes are like sleeper cinema lenses, in my opinion. Like very little focus breathing, very well color matched. And so I would say I'd spend a little bit extra and go with the Lumix. Wesley, yes, the AF performance is really good on the BF. It's not even funny. I have had times where like if it sits there for long enough, it will try to be like, I think something changed. Let's shift around a little bit. But it does a really good job of getting back on there. So yeah, it's very good. It's very good, especially the tracking. The tracking is so shockingly good, especially for how bad the autofocus was on the FP. Like it's kind of crazy. And I saw this in Petapixel's review. It's like it's the biggest leap in autofocus performance from one gen camera to the next, because like again, the FP's autofocus was just garbage. And to have the BF be this good at autofocus is crazy. So I'm with you on that one. It's insane. It's insane. What about creative filters? I know you mentioned you have a Black Pro Mist, but any other filters you enjoy using? I don't use the Black Pro Mist as much as I used to. I swore by Black Pro Mist, but I've gotten recently where I'm like, I think in just some stuff, it just makes the image just look muddy. And so I've gotten away from using it as much as I used to. I am using it for this stuff on Sunday because a client asked to kind of help with like skin textures and things like that. So I will put a Black Pro Mist on. And so I think that's the bigger thing, is like just being intentional about it. Filters. I do have one. Let me see if it's easily accessible right now. It might be. If it's not, I may have to not do this. I don't want to wake anybody up by shifting a whole bunch of things around. It's somewhere around here. There is if you go online, and I think it's an AliExpress filter, but it's a swirly bokeh filter. You have to be very careful with it because it does some weird things to light sources. But if you like vintage lenses that have like a swirly bokeh texture, like Helios 442, or even some that are just a little bit more extreme than that, they actually make a filter that kind of replicates that. Again, if you're shooting against a light source, I wouldn't use it, because what it does is it basically cuts out. It's like a solid metal piece that cuts out little strands of that metal to basically shape the bokeh. But what it does to light sources is it basically just cuts the light sources. Like you can kind of tell there's something weird going on. And on some wide lenses, it doesn't work. And in zoom lenses, it doesn't work. I found that like 50 millimeters to 85 kind of in that range or kind of 50 on, it works really well. But that's one that, like, if you want to get super creative, that's a good one. And if you have EF, I wouldn't necessarily do EF, but if you have PL lenses, Module 8, look at Module 8. They're tuners. They're a little bit pricey. But if you look at like any product shots that I've done in the last year, maybe, I've used Module 8 for pretty much everything. And that's where I get like an in-camera chromatic aberration, a little bit of out of focus edges, and give that kind of vintage look. It's meant to take like sharp lenses and just detune them, and just kind of make them a little less perfect. So Module 8, and they have 3 different ones. I have the L1. I want to eventually pick up the L3, which is kind of like or maybe even the L2, because that one's supposed to replicate like a K35. I'm on a tangent right now. But yeah, check out Module 8. Check out the swirly bokeh. Those are good creative filters. I love your footage from the BF in your BF videos. Do you think the color science is better than the S5 II? 100%. 100%. No question for me. The S5 II, I got to where I didn't really enjoy that image. Like the more that I used it, the more I wasn't a fan of the image. It's a little bit of a dated sensor. And it just wasn't towards like the end of, especially using like the newer Lumix cameras, that they have a little bit more of a newer sensors, newer technology, a little bit sharper, a little actual sharper images rather than digitally sharp images. I think is kind of where I fell out of love with the S5 II. But yes, color science 100%. You do have a little bit better sub sampling with the S5 II because it's 10-bit 422 rather than 10-bit 420. But when you have good colors out of camera, you don't have to push them as much. So there is that. And Sigma is well known for having really good colors. I mean, they make their own sensors for some of their cameras in their older lineup. So I mean, they're known for having good colors, and so I would say 100% the BF has better color science than the S5 II or S9 or S5 IIX. Any favorite microphone for onboard audio? The Sennheiser MKE 400, hands down. It is one I edit for a golf channel, and they are switching over to Panasonic camcorders, and they asked me like, hey, can you recommend some accessories? And the first thing I sent them was the MKE 400. It is one that I bought because I like the aesthetic of it. And I saw a lot of people using it, so I was like, okay, it has to be like a somewhat decent microphone. No, I mean, it legitimately, like, it isolates sound so good. Like there are times where I'll record like on my DJI lav mics, and I'll record the audio on that, and so my scratch audio will be what's on my video files, and I could potentially use just that microphone and it would be great. So that's what I would say for mics for sure. What's up, man? That's why I rely on ELZone for balancing my color on the FP. Yeah, it's ELZ. I miss ELZone. I do. It's a lot easier to read than than freaking just false color. Sigma BF. What's up, Neil? Sigma BF versus Lumix S5 II. Man, if the S5 II wasn't such a freaking like tank workhorse, like it is as much as I like prefer the image of the BF, the S5 II is a workhorse camera, hands down. It is one that I've used extensively for paid gigs. Used it at weddings, use it for live events. Autofocus is fantastic, doesn't overheat. Like, I would love to say the BF wins on that one, but unfortunately they do not. And hopefully my Lumix reps are very happy about that. JK. I prefer Glimmer Glass over Black Pro Mist. I've never liked the look of BPM. So here's my trick with Glimmer Glass versus BPM. BPM is great or Black Pro Mist is great if you're dealing with a warm setting, because it's when you're in like a daylight setting. Yeah, daylight actually I would use in daylight. But if you're in like a cooler setting, the orange or the warm tones from the Black Pro Mist are more noticeable. And that's where I would probably lean to a Glimmer Glass, because it's kind of a cooler mist. And so it just depends on like what vibe you're going for me. I do have a Glimmer Glass. And to be honest, I prefer, who is it? Not Firecrest. I almost had it. It was on the tip of my tongue. It's basically the brand that makes the Firecrest Indies, Format High Tech. That's who I was thinking of. I prefer their white Super Mist over Glimmer Glass. It gives you very, very good kind of like that raised contrast, that filmic look with the diffusion. So I'm a big fan of that one. Manny, how is BF footage for grading? Any footage you can share if possible for testing purposes? Excuse me. Thank you very much for answering all my questions. Your channel is so good. Thank you. I don't know why it's Siri. If you want test footage, reach out to me on Instagram. I don't have any that I have for just like anybody to use, but I'm sure that I can probably upload something to Google Drive and share a link or stuff like that. So hit me up on Instagram and we can chat. For BF for grading, I've loved it. Is it Cinema DNG? No, but also I don't know how you say no positively. No, it's not. it's both good and bad that it's not Cinema DNG, because like Cinema DNG, like literally it's a like you have information and you're just forming an image off of that information, which is one of the beautiful things about the FP. But the BF with its 10-bit is just kind of that modern mirrorless workflow. You have a log image if you're using like a log, and you put your 709 conversion LUT on there, you throw a finishing LUT on there, and you kind of go and expose. So that's typically what I'll do. I'll have like 2 nodes. If you're using like DaVinci Resolve, I'll have 2 nodes at the end of my node tree. That's just so I'll do the Leica has a couple of Leica log 709 LUTs. I use the natural 709. There's the natural 709 and there's the natural 2020. And I think technically L-Log is a 2020 color space, a Rec 2020 color space. But I just prefer the 709 look, at least for the natural 709 LUT that I'm using. And so I'll throw that in, and then I'll throw in the Lumix created Dark Knight LUT. I talked about this LUT at nauseum at this point, but that'll be my finishing look LUT. And then I'll have a couple nodes before those 2 nodes in the node tree that will handle like exposure, temperature adjustments, and things like that. But that's typically, yeah, it lets you push it around pretty decently. I found that I still enjoy grading with the BF. Phil Bloom. Oh wait, hang on. Yeah, honestly, I like the. Oh yeah. I like the Rec 709, like natural Cine D from the old GH5 S5 II natural Cine D. Only thing S5 II image looks better than the GH5 is in Vlog. I mean, Vlog on the S5 II looks great. The GH5 has so good. The GH5 has not so good Vlog profile or Vlog L profile. I don't know a ton of people that use Vlog on. I mean, no, actually, I did. There was a ton of people that use Vlog L on the GH5, but I also know like my buddy Caleb, like I think he stopped for a while. He was like, I'm just using the natural because it got really, it wasn't great. It just wasn't great. So yeah, it does have a little bit better image as far as a full log profile. I don't know what this comment means. Philip Bloom? I mean, I know who Philip Bloom is, but I think we were talking about filters, and now I'm confused. Might also be my bourbon, which, by the way, I have not had enough of. It's all watered down at this point. Cheers. Happy Friday. I never got into why. Oh, I was talking about his filter. Yeah, he does make. I haven't seen it much, but I know he does make one. I need to look into it. So there's a couple things. One, if you're just joining the stream, my dilemma for the black BF. One, I bought the black version of the BF. So black, silver. I like the 18 to 40 paired with it. It looks nice. The problem with me is I'm not a designer, but I have enough design, enough of a design type brain, creative brain. That's probably the better way of saying that. That like the inconsistency of like the text on the lens to like the text on the BF, like it drives me nuts a little bit. It's not the exact shade of white. Now the easy, so I'm looking for suggestions on what people are using on their black BFs. I prefer something that maybe had autofocus and I don't have to spend a ton of money. So maybe like an older autofocus lens. I had thought about doing like the original, the OG 45 millimeter I-series lens. But then my obsessive brain is like, well, why wouldn't I just get the DG version, the new DG version, which has all the new branding? And then that's when I spend too much money. I'm like, I work myself into spending too much money. So like, ideally, I'd be able to find the old 45 millimeter. Like this lens was like the kit lens for like the S5 II, right? Or like some like S series cameras. Like it came with a Sigma 45 millimeter, but I cannot find the lens under like, I think I found it for like $300. I think I found one for $300. If I can get it for like $200, I'd go with it. But any recommendations on what people are pairing with their BFs, being that this is a design forward camera, I want to know what people are using with it to kind of give. Again, I got spoiled with the silver. It was like a no-brainer for me. I already had a silver 45 millimeter and it just looks killer. I don't know why it looks like I have a thumbs up, but okay, Apple. And so I got spoiled with the consistency there. So let me know what you guys, if you have a black BF, what are you using with it? And taking all recommendations, preferably autofocus and not super expensive. All right, let's go to this. Any lighting tutorials to come on the channel, especially that shot the BF or FP? I have I have one. I don't do lighting tutorials all that much, not from the fact that like I think I suck at lighting. There are a lot of times I do think I suck at lighting. Like I tend to go heavy contrast because it's easy. Like this is one light, right? Like this whole like shadow and everything, it's easy. But I do have one on the channel that it's attached to a microfilm. So if you go back on the channel, there was one called My Swift Valentine. It was a continuation of like a kind of like a series that I was doing on the channel called My Brother the Villain. And in that I did a little like a kind of like an episode to that series, but then once that was over, I was like the first 90 seconds, because it's a microfilm or micro episode, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of that episode, I actually talked about my lighting and what I used. I don't do a ton. It doesn't do really well on my channel. Typically when I talk about lights, it's like YouTube doesn't see me as a light person, so it doesn't know who to send the video to. So I typically do them every once in a while. And when I do like review a light, I typically try to do some sort of tutorial or some sort of like how I'm using it. But it's very few and far between. So it's not a no, but it's not, I don't have a ton. But every once in a while I try to make one. I like both the Sigma BF options. I know you will you make them rock. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think I liked the black more than the silver, but like I've been carrying, like I got it. It came in the mail on Monday, Tuesday, something like that. And it's been my EDC camera all week. And I have a friend, my lead photographer that I work with. She was like, I like the black better. She always made fun of the silver one. It looks like a point and shoot. It looks like an old Canon point and shoot. And so when I brought the black one, she was like, oh, I like the black one. It looks nice. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And it does have its own, like, I didn't think it would stand out, but it has its own way of standing out while also being kind of subtle, which I'm a fan of. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. And yeah, it's the BF. I do really like it with this. As much as like the inconsistency of design between the 1840 and the BF is, like, I really like this setup. It's a nice compact setup. Like, that is the hard part about if you buy the BF and you don't buy a grip with it, like if you want to be that purist that doesn't buy a grip for it, buy small lenses. You have to buy small lenses. The minute you put anything, like I have, the easy answer for me would be to put on my 50 1.2, because that metal matches the metal of the mount of the black BF. And so that would be the easy answer. But there's two things that's wrong with that. This is it's not a big lens, but it's a very stout lens. So it actually hits the surface before the camera does, and that drives me nuts. Like, if there's one thing about, there's a lot of things about cameras that drive me nuts, but that is one. When the camera does not make it to the surface of whatever you're setting it down before the lens does. To be fair, the S1R Mark II and the S1 Mark II, and for that matter, the S1 IIe, also, because the body is so small, when I'm using my 50 or like any of my like chunkier Sigma lenses, they do the same thing because there's not a ton of space between the bottom of the camera and the mount. So, I don't know where I was going with that statement, but here we are. Your BF interview clips lighting look awesome. So I asked about lighting. I must tell you, absolutely do not suck at lighting. Thank you. That lighting was actually really easy. And I say that, I want to thank you. That was a one light setup. And typically when I do talking heads like that, I try to get away with a one light setup. I'm a big fan of one light lighting. And typically that is, and it just depends on like how much mood the client wants, or like what calls for it. Typically my go-to is one large light source, about, the Rembrandt 45 degrees from the subject. So like, here's camera, take the light, put it like right about here. And I try to use my umbrella. So there's not a ton of people that I don't know why people don't use umbrellas more than they do for filmmaking. But I'll use an umbrella diffusion. And so that's just a big light source. So big light source means softer on skin tones. Like, this is a little bit more contrast, and I prefer this for this shot because this is a smaller light source. And so it's going to hit my skin and add contrast on this side of my face and kind of go. I've used an umbrella lighting in the studio and it looks garbage. Like, it looks terrible. It's too big. This is a small space. I want a small light source and I want that harsh lighting. So for that shot, like if you're watching the stream or the stream I was doing and I was talking about that shoot, yeah, that's just one umbrella Like I'm using just like I think for that one, I was even using this light, which is like the Zhiyun, like little pocket lights, the 60 watts, with an umbrella diffusion, 45 degrees. That is it. That is it. And then beyond that, I think that shot was all practicals. The one I'm doing Sunday, I'll be adding a hair light. So basically what that will look like is you have Rembrandt key light, 45 degrees. I might do less than 45 just to get less drama in the shadows. But that one will be probably like 20. Is it less or more? That's 90. Okay, yeah. So like 30 degrees, somewhere around there, to my subject, and then I'll have like a brighter light coming from the back corner, just going onto my subject's hairline, just to separate a little bit because it's a darker background. So yeah, I in theory know a little bit about lighting. The reason I say like I'm not good with lighting is because under pressure, I can't. I have a huge problem with like if I'm going to somewhere I'm not familiar with, coming up with what is the best lighting for this situation. I will typically settle, and this is where I'm trying to grow as a filmmaker and videographer, is taking a minute to assess the scene, taking a minute to assess the environment to get the best lighting, rather than getting what just lights the subject okay and is like me okay. That's where I don't think I'm great, because I need to, and I think that just comes with experience. But I need to be able to assess those environments. Great insights. Thanks for sharing your techniques. For sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the kind words. Absolutely. So yeah, going back to, all right. So we're talking about the BF. The reason I bought two was not just to have a black version and a silver version. We are actually launching, or we're trying to kind of launch a podcast service for the photography studio that I work with. And I really just want a 3-camera setup. And I said this at the beginning and kind of alluded to it. I didn't want to buy 3 S1R Mark IIs. And for that matter, I really didn't want to use S5 II or S9 for those scenarios either. Because again, I've kind of like just gotten over the image of those cameras. And so because the BF and because the S1R Mark II are like, I think they hold up together really well. If I'm doing a 3-camera setup for a podcast, I'm going to basically have the S1R Mark II be the A cam and the 2 BFs be my B and C cam, and kind of go with that. So there was actually some business decisions around a 3rd BF. And people might call me crazy that I'm using the BF professionally, but like, it looks great. I don't have to bring a memory card, and it offloads data fast enough to where, like, if I give myself a little bit of buffer time between shoots or between, longer takes, I can offload the information and offload the footage and continue on. So that is the reason behind my insanity. So yeah, my dilemma is, all that being said, my dilemma is not buying 2 BFs. It is what freaking black lens to pair with the black BF. I think I'll probably stick with the 1840. I really like the weight distribution of that setup. But that is, I'm intrigued what people are using. Let me know in the comments, or if you're in the chat, let me know. I want to ask one last question. I love it. I love questions. How did you choose between so many models of cameras like Lumix or Sigma, BF, FP for a shoot? Do you not get confused choosing when having more options? Yes, there are a lot of times. Oh, this is a rabbit trail, right? When I have certain cameras, I think for a while when I had my FP, my S5 2X, there is a lot of decision paralysis, right? Like a lot of decision paralysis. There's because there's so many cameras on the market. You're right, there are. I mean, for that matter, like what was it? I was looking at the S1R Mark II, and I was like, that's $3,000. given like I work with Lumix a lot, but they're like, that's $3,000. The Komodo is $3,000 right now too. What do I do? Like, what do I do? So it kind of goes back a little bit. Some of it goes back to what I was talking with you earlier, and that is like, what's my function? What do I need it for? So for me, let's talk cinema camera versus mirrorless camera. We'll kind of go in a couple different scenarios, right? My decision tree, so to speak. Cinema camera versus mirrorless camera. I get hired for a lot of photo gigs. This month honestly has been more photo than video for me. So automatically that says I should not be purchasing a cinema camera because I'm not doing purely video. I'm getting hired for photography just as much as I am videography and filmmaking. And for that matter too, like I enjoy photography just as much as filmmaking sometimes. Sometimes even more. Like this is a small tangent. I'm coming back around, so hold tight. But like this print, that print, and I have one over here. Those are all mine. And there's nothing like the feeling of printing your own work, in my opinion. Like even seeing your own, like I've done short films before, and even seeing that, like I know I have a certain skill set, and I know like I can pull some stuff off. But like there's just a feeling around printing your work, and so for that matter, I do enjoy photography just as much as videography. And so that's where I would say, okay, mirrorless camera. I have a lot of Lumix counterparts that are like, we want a Lumix cinema camera, and I'm like, that would be cool. I don't know if I'd use it more than my mirrorless cameras, but it would be cool. Okay, so then let's talk about like ecosystems. So brand versus another brand, right? So we're talking about like I mentioned, oh hey, okay, well I like the look of Red cameras. Well, Nikon has Red RAW basically, or has some form of Red RAW. I don't know exactly what's happening there. Why am I not going Nikon? Well, there is a whole thought around like go with the system that you've invested in, right? Like go with the system that like I don't want to necessarily go and have to rebuy all my lenses. That is the one reason to stay in a certain ecosystem is if you're primarily a Sony shooter and you have all Sony glass, even if it's like third-party Sony glass, you're still going to have to replace all of that if you switch to the L mount alliance or a Z mount. And so that's another decision is like, well, how do I, I'm going to stay in the system because most of my lenses are in the system. So then that comes down to, okay, I literally have so many Lumix cameras right now. Like I'm a Lumix creator. And so I have the S9, I have the S5 2X, I have the GH7, I have the GH6 for that matter. What else do I have? I have the S1 II still, and I have the S1R2. I have two S1R2 because I have my personal copy. I have my BFs and I have my FP. And it comes down to, sometimes it comes down to the project, right? Sometimes it comes down to, I have a project coming up that is like 2 12-hour a day event coverage. I'm probably taking the S5 2X. It probably won't get used, but it's going to be there as a backup in case my S1R Mark II starts overheating, because it's been known to overheat in longer takes and things like that. So I'm going to take that as a backup. So that might get used. If I'm walking around and want to do like street photography, I'm probably using this. However, if I'm using manual lenses, I might be inclined to use the FP still. Actually, I think I sold my EVF for it, which makes me sad. Why did I do that? But that at the time I had the EVF for the FP, and that was killer for getting manual focus. And so like there's just all these decision trees around like systems versus project. So it really comes project to project. And then sometimes I just make it easy for myself. And I try to stay away from buying multiple cameras that do the same exact thing, because then that's when I get into decision paralysis, because I have a camera that maybe has one difference over another, and so I really don't know which one I should use. Like I used to have that problem a lot, and that's why one reason why I'm okay buying cameras that are a little bit more underpowered versus my A cam, which is, adequately powered for what I need to do, because that makes it easy for the hierarchy of where I use my cameras. And so that's personally how I decide. It's usually project based. It's usually like, now it's a little bit easier for me to decide because the generational gap between the sensors is way different on these Lumix cameras now. But it used to be really bad. And so I absolutely understand kind of that sentiment. But that's how I would decide, is usually, kind of go in that decision tree, and at a certain point, it's kind of comes down to what I'm filming, what I'm photographing, and what worked best for it. I'm sorry if that was a long-winded answer. I worked with Komodo for the first time this weekend. I was not a fan. Oh, wow. I don't like the way it creates pictures as files. It reminds me of dealing with Cinema DNG. That's fair. I've worked, honestly, my FP was the reason I did not buy a Red camera, because I was like, I'm basically doing the same thing. Like, yes, no rolling shutter. Yes, I have better IO, but like at the end of the day, for what I'm filming, I'm getting very similar results, and I'm not spending $6,000. So there is that. I feel the same way with my tools. I have a Ryobi system, and I don't want to adopt another charger for another set of batteries, for sure. Like, it's just like you kind of get in. It's the Apple thing, right? Like, Apple creates this ecosystem, and you get to where you're so efficient, and you get to where your workflow is dialed in to where, like, you can't go to another computer brand or another phone brand or another tablet brand or watch brand, whatever, because your ecosystem is so dialed in. And there's truth to that, even with camera brands. You know, every once in a while, I see people, I pay attention to the internet. I pay attention to my counterparts on YouTube. Like, I see people using GFX cameras, and I'm like, man, that's nice. But at the same time, I'm like, y'all don't have shutter angle, pass. You don't have false color, pass. You have, what do you have going for you? Like, I love Fuji cameras. I love Fuji colors. I hate using Fuji cameras for the functionality. They are cumbersome as a filmmaker, especially when you get into a workflow that incorporates shutter angle rather than shutter speed. It's hard to go back. It's hard to go back. And for that matter, I love the look of Fuji cameras, but yeah. Sorry if anybody's watching and has probably watched my channel on how much I do love the X-T3. I think it's a great camera. But for me personally, in my workflow, that's why I tend to go Lumix and Sigma. Because, I mean, my little marketed as a street photography walk around EDC camera, designer forward, not serious, capturing tool, has shutter angle. Make it make sense. Anyways, you are right. I used to have many X mount Fuji lenses. Sometimes it's hard to choose when to choose which lens, for sure. So now I am trying not to get mini lens to keep set up simple on my S5 II. It's hard. It's hard because you get into that, like that going back to gear acquisition syndrome, the gas, or like the I need to get a new lens. Like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I've gotten it. That is the nice thing about like this being my profession now, is I have to kind of like ask myself, like, do I need this? Is this going to make me money? Am I going to see a return on investment from it? Whereas before, when it was just hobby, it was like, well, this is my hobby. I kind of can do whatever I want as long as I have the money. And so it's, it can be hard. It can be hard. Like, but I still have that. Like, I'm constantly like, do I want to use primes? I mean, hell, for that matter, when I had my cinema lenses, it was even worse because I was like, I have these decently expensive cinema lenses, and I'm not using. I should use them. I should use them. Okay. I even told my lead photographer, I was like, hey, for this upcoming event, I'm going to use my cinema lenses. This is when I had them. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. Because she trusts me. She knows I know how to pull focus adequately and knows that I care about image, care about everything looking good. And she's like, yeah, that's cool. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I told myself, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Those things are heavy. I don't want to use them. And so like, yeah, I mean, like now I have like the biggest thing for me now is primes versus zooms. And like for some talking head brand stuff, I'll use zooms every once in a while. And I'm like, oh, I should have used a prime for this. Like I did that video that was on my last stream. I saw too much of the background. Like I love for that type of scenario because that's a co-working space. And so like you have seats in the background, you have desk in the background, and it's the warehouse space. I wish I had done a prime. And even if it wasn't at f1.2, if it was like 1.4, 1.8, just to give that that background a little bit more separation, not be so busy. That's where I wish I'd use a prime for that, and that's why I'm using a prime this time around. So that's I try not to cannibalize my own setup. So like I have a 51.2. I'm probably not going to go buy a 51.4, 1.8 unless it's giving me something very different than this 51.2. And for that matter, like I really want the iSeries 50mm f2. I won't let myself buy it because I'm like, I have that coverage. And the only reason I would get it is because I want to downsize the size of the lens, which is not worth what, $700 for me. So yeah, it's a weird world. That's where, that's where that term gas comes from, is like, you feel like you need to buy things all the time. I mean, you already need to buy things all the time when you're doing filmmaking, videography as a profession, because you always have to look at, do I have, I need more lighting, I need more audio, I need more, XYZ. It's already an expensive hobby / profession. We don't need to make it more expensive. And exactly, do I need it or do I want it? And there are times where I will buy because I want it. Like if I buy the 45mm in a black version just to pair with my black BF, that is a complete want, right? And I will have to like mull that over and really think about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah, it's gear is a tricky thing sometimes. But with that said, I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's been like an hour and 15. You guys have been amazing. Yes. Thank you guys for all the questions and all the chats. Again, if you're watching this after the fact, if you have a black BF, please help me solve my dilemma. Hopefully there is a perfect lens I'm not considering that's both cheap, decent image wise, and also looks good on the BF. And I don't think it's going to be anything other than an iSeries lens, but let me know. So thank you guys all for showing up and joining. Take it easy for sure. Thank you very much for coming and chatting and hanging out. I love these. I love doing the streams, especially on weeks like this where I didn't really have a ton of videos out. I love just hanging with the community. So thank you guys all for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Peace.